Hey guys, in today's video, we will be doing a deep dive analysis of Riot Platforms. We had great news that was announced where Riot is now partnered with AMD. They got an ink deal signed that was announced yesterday, and they are executing very fast with revenues soon to start up, even in this month with AMD. We'll go through the latest updates, what this means for the company, as well as covering technical analysis, price predictions. Now, if you're new to this channel, you believe in the use case, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing, and why I believe Riot is going to be the next Iron 2.0 in the year 2026. Let's begin, guys.
Coming in as a proven developer and executor is a lot easier than being an unproven developer and executor. The first deal is always going to be the hardest, no matter, I think, what its size is. So we have now firmly established Riot as a solutions provider to one of the most significant AI companies in the world. That credibility, and as we demonstrate executing on this deal, that credibility is going to smooth up the process for leasing capacity beyond this initial deal.
Justin Banks posted, if you miss HUT, don't miss Riot. AMD is paying Riot to run AI servers. This isn't hype anymore. It's real demand. 25 megawatts of AI power goes live in 2026 with expansion potential up to 200 megawatts. Riot bought 200 acres using Bitcoin. No dilution, no debt. That matters. But Riot is more than a miner. It's power and land. This is exactly what AI data centers need. Hardig posted, Piper Sandler's, price targets, and they are maintaining a price target at 26. In fact, other analysts are even rating, $30 plus potential. Analyst calls AMD HPC deal a credible data center entry for Riot, sees potential $30 per share value in full AI transition. TrendSpider posts volume on this breakout is hard to ignore. Let's take a look. I mean, we had price action back in October all the way to November. It dropped from like $24 all the way to $12. I mean, think about that. That's like over like what 60% drop off. We had a slight run up December, then it just pulled back $12. And year to date, we've seen, price action go from $12 and today we've seen it go above no, yesterday we've seen it go above $19. Look at this volume. Yeah, definitely hard to ignore with that price action, with the amount of volume that was being traded on Friday with that announcement yesterday. Stock Pattern Pros, Tim, he's been posting about Riot a lot. I mean, he also posted like several months ago anticipating that Riot will have its short squeeze in the year 2026. Let's take a look at what he just posted yesterday. Riot, hopefully, possibly would be about time. Finally, the run we've been looking for over the last few years is setting up. Never fell back in the doom loop and instead turned up. Good sign. So what are we seeing? I mean, 2017, we saw a vertical run up. 2020, we saw a run up from like $3 all the way up to $80. And now we're in 2026. How high can it go? Yes, there's a lot more available shares out there. What does this mean? Can it go up to $50? Can it go up to $80? Can it go and surpass the prior resistance level, get to $100? Only time will tell. History doesn't tend to repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, and it'll be a matter of time to see where things are headed. Let's go through the Riot Platforms business update slide deck that was released yesterday. So we got their image as to how the core shell development will look like at one point once the Corsicana facility is fully implemented. So, one of the greatest updates that we got is Riot is now transforming, focusing their initiative, becoming an AI service provider enabled by, the Bitcoin mining with the revenue that they're able to generate from the Bitcoin per month. So one of the greatest things that had happened was their acquisition of land at Rockdale. They were able to, have an acquisition of $96 million, a simple fee acquisition with AMD. They have 700 megawatts at the Rockdale facility. And one of the good things is they actually own the land there. So that's definitely a good thing in that it, reduces costs when it comes to like, monthly leasing and all that. And the leasing that will generate revenue will come from AMD. Now, AMD, one of the greatest things is, they have a contract for the initial capacity of 25 megawatt of critical IT load in the custom built data center with potential to expand up to 200 megawatts of critical IT load. So what was unique was one of the buildings at Rockdale, they had like S20, S19 miners there where most of the machines there were depreciated. It's about time to, get rid of them. They've, reached their end of life course, and now it's time to, gut out that, that building at Rockdale facility. And through the collaboration with AMD, Riot was able to, set this infrastructure up to get this IT load up and running shortly in the month of January and fully implemented with the, the initial 25 megawatt of capacity delivered in two phases, January and May 2026. So things are happening very fast. This also allows for, the contract to be expanded, starting with, 311 million across an initial 10-year term with the opportunity to extend, on 5-year options. So, just taking a look at the Rockdale facility. So right, they acquired more land at Rockdale. This really allows for them to expand their facility and also at one point potentially even get more megawatt capacity, get approval from, the energy grid. So they were able to sell Bitcoin. They actually have, at one point 19,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. We saw back in December they were selling a large chunk of Bitcoin. When I saw that, I knew something was happening behind the scenes. You won't just make a big time purchase like that without any customer driving requirements there. So they bought more land with $96 million, sold off 1,080 of their Bitcoin. That gives them 200 acres, which allows for them to really scale out their campus layout for data center build out utilizing all power, with their, power capacity, 700 megawatts with Riot substation on site. And they also have the water supply for Bitcoin mining and data center development. So definitely, creative, with their strategic operations to, to scale up their AI initiatives and continue to mine Bitcoin as well. So definitely a tiered approach, two-pronged approach that we see. So how are they able to unlock significant value? One, they're able to unlock the ability to fully utilize Rockdale's power capacity. Two, they're able to convert sites from a ground lease to full fee simple ownership by Riot, eliminating lease expiry risk and strengthening long-term strategic optionality. And three, they're able to secure potential future expansion of power capacity beyond 700 megawatts. And they're also accumulating, savings from eliminating, ground lease term plus 10-year extension options. So, definitely developing optionality and positive return on cash flow, as we look at, the outlook for Riot. So let's look at the data center lease with AMD. So as we look at the image of Rockdale campus, we have 25 megawatt initial capacity in this building here, and at one point it'll expand into these two buildings with the 75 megawatt expansion option. So it gives them some wiggle room here, and S&P rating AMD has an A. Everyone knows about AMD. I mean, a lot of people who are building their own computers right now, they're using AMD graphics card. Total contract revenue, $311 million. Lease start date starts January 30th, 2026. And, with this whole initiative, they're able to use their, electrical design retrofit that. So the cost to get this up and running, it doesn't really take a toll on Riot Platforms. $89 million to, support this retrofit. But when you look at the expected annual NOI, that's like $25 million with, future extension options. So as we look at the timeline, from a near-term delivery to AMD with long-term potential, this is how we're able to see Riot really executing on their strategic plan. We got, Riot signing a lease, and then phase one is expected to be delivered, January 2026. I mean, just within less than 2 weeks, we got 5 megawatts delivered. we got that up and running already. And the question is, what technology is Riot using? Are they using AMD technology in the building as well now that they're partnering? Phase two, we got 20 megawatt delivered in May, which will come in the subsequent months. And then we got the expansion option of 75 megawatts with, future additional capacity of 100 megawatts there. So, we got 200 megawatt load of potential critical IT capacity with AMD. So, leveraging Riot's data center capabilities to power AMD. So let's read a quote from, a representative from AMD. At AMD, advancing high performance computing and AI requires partners that can match our pace and scale. We're excited to work with Riot, whose capabilities, power, availability, and high dense solutions align with our infrastructure roadmap. This collaboration strengthens our ability to deliver the performance and scalability the AI ecosystem demands. So, we got the team expertise, veteran data center team built from industry leaders with proven track records. Team has completed 5+ gigawatt of data center design and construction. There's a CapEx efficiency. There's a capacity to scale. Custom design, it's built to, AMD's requirements. Purpose-built design aligned with AMD needs, collaborative solution across both teams over the last several months at the Rockdale facility. And, their speed to delivery, I mean, this really is a testament to show how Riot is able to execute on a very quick timeline, the tenant aligned to delivery sequencing. And, this whole roadmap has been engineered to meet AMD's, customer deployment objectives. So definitely operating on an accelerated, timeline, and definitely kudos to, Jonathan Hibbs, the head of the AI development at Riot Platforms. So definitely a solid addition to the team that Riot Platforms executive management has assembled. Announcement data center initiatives will be fully funded through Riot's balance sheet. So when you think about what's so unique about Riot, I mean, they have a solid balance sheet. They have like 406 million total cash. They have, less than like $2 billion worth of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So it really gives Riot the wiggle room, the ability to make some power moves, especially with the amount of liquid that they have. I mean, Bitcoin is a very liquid, asset, and they're able to, leverage, tap into their balance sheet, see how they can move their liquid to really expand on their portfolio. This is what's so unique about Riot when you compare it with other companies. You have companies like Iron where they don't have, Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They use all their revenue, put it into AI, which is also a great strategy as well. But when you see this two-pronged approach, it really allows for Riot to establish itself. And let's say Bitcoin prices starts rocketing, that's really going to add more fuel to Riot's strength as well, with the ability to accelerate their core and shell development as we look at, what's coming. And as we look at this, announcement with AMD and their, partnership at the Rockdale facility. Also, we know that Riot Platforms, they have another facility at the Corsicana facility. That's the facility where they're focused on advancing tier three AI development. They actually have progression going on right now, developing the core and shell development, which we've heard in their Q3 quarterly earnings announcement. So lots of exciting stuff happening. It's great to see that partnership with AMD. And, as a future perspective, they're also working very fast at the Corsicana facility as well to get that up and running, and then to also get more client partnership deals. So, this offers significant benefits to Riot and the data center platform. Now that we have the AMD lease advantages, we have, benefits having this partnership at Rockdale really validates, Riot in this new space of HPC development as an AI service provider. But just looking at, Riot, they own 1 gigawatt critical IT leasing opportunity, 1.7 gigawatt opportunity. Data center growth will continue to expand. So we got that 5 megawatts soon to be turned on by end of January at Rockdale. And then we got 25 megawatts to be turned on, deployed at Rockdale. And then you got 21, no, 200 megawatts at the Rockdale facility. And when you shift over to Corsicana, you got the first two Corsicana core and shells for tier three capacity, 112 megawatts capacity to be, implemented at the Corsicana facility. So fully developed portfolio data centers. This gives, that 1.2 gigawatt of future data center development over time. To think about it, I mean, January 2025 was when Riot announced that they're going to have a strategic pivot to evaluate the potential for HPC development. And since then, you see how fast things have been moving. I mean, they hired Jonathan Gibbs as their chief data center officer, and they've been just making things happen. And this is definitely a testament for Riot Platforms executive team. Jason Les, the CEO, he's definitely one of the most resilient and audacious leaders I've seen in the Bitcoin AI space. And, we're definitely seeing things, come to fruition. Let's go through technical analysis. So I just want to go through the technicals, give you an overview of where I see price headed for Bitcoin and Riot Platforms. So what are we seeing on the weekly candles? We're seeing relative strength. Back in November, obviously we knew that there was a lot of fear, uncertainty going on. A lot of people were wondering whether Bitcoin was going to drop significantly lower. It took a pullback to $80,000, and we saw a lot of buying opportunities there. We're seeing it stabilize with RSI. Smart money is beginning to accumulate. One of the good things we're seeing is as we look closely at the Ichimoku cloud, we're seeing price action, build base at this Ichimoku cloud around that 90,000 barrier. We were at 80,000 back in November, and December, we're hovering right at that, sub 90,000. And then, January, we're now hovering, high 90,000s. At one point we got to like 98,000, only a few percentage away from $100,000 if you put that in the context. But just look at this. We got this red momentum candle turned on January 12th on the weekly candle. Definitely a good thing. The last weekly candle momentum that we saw was September. So it's been quite some time since we've seen any, change there. But let's take a look at this. Look at this. We have the 10 to 50 moving average crossing. So, that's definitely a good sign. Lots of algos see that, and we start seeing a lot more trade with bullish momentum there. But I really do think that in this year, 2026, we may very well see a squeeze to 200,000 Bitcoin. And think about it. What does that mean for Riot? They have a big Bitcoin hodl as well. They're on the top 10 of Bitcoin hodl when you think about that. So definitely very exciting. As we look at Riot Platforms technical analysis, I just want to give you a zoomed out view. What are we seeing on the monthly candle? So I mean, as we look at, the Ichimoku cloud, I'm going to also add relative strength index. So good thing is we're hovering right back to that surface level of the Ichimoku cloud. That's definitely a good thing. Why is that so important? I mean, over the many years now since that big run up back in the last short squeeze of like 2020, look at the price action since 2021. It's been hovering below the Ichimoku cloud for like many, many years now. And it was just until recently. Now we just hit the surface level of the Ichimoku cloud. So one thing I'm seeing on the long-term charts is 2017, we had an RSI of 82. 2020, we had an RSI of 90. We haven't had an RSI of 80 plus since then. So is there going to be a potential short squeeze? History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And I'm thinking that we can see something very favorable coming up very soon. As we look at it on the weekly scale, though, I mean, just look at this. This is such a beautiful chart that we're seeing. I'll turn off the Ichimoku cloud. We definitely know that, things are looking bullish on the weekly. But I'm just going to show you what we're seeing here. So, here's a descending resistance back in 2022. We got rejection at $23. We had that, bearish movement there. 2023, we saw a run up to $20, got rejected. It got rejected December 2023, 2024, February got rejected. 2024, another rejection. 2025 July, we got rejected at $15. And then we broke out $24 October 2025. Just recently, we had price establishing uh, at the support level. So the prior resistance is now the support level. And now just with this news with AMD, this really allows for, Riot Platforms to really kick things into gear. And as we look at what's going on the charts, just to give you an overall perspective of what smart money is doing and the momentum indicators, we're seeing a rise with smart money. This is definitely what we want to see. We're seeing a big red candle, and this is going to be followed through with some nice, purple candles. How high can it go? I really do think that this quarter there's, a probability that we can get somewhere around that $40 range, and it'll be sweet if it can go even beyond that. But I really do think that we may very well see, price action start hovering to $30, $40 range in the near term. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this content, I really appreciate you stopping by. Please make sure to hit the like, subscribe. Take care, guys.